Hey guys, Coach here. Hey, we're talking about looking forward a little bit in 2023. Here we are in the depths of winter, and I'm going to be asking you to think about the middle of spring. Hey, knowledge is power, and if landscaping and outdoor yard work is not your 9 to 5, then I'll ask you to stick around just a little bit because you're going to learn a little something here today about looking forward. Are you ready? Are you with me? Let's get this thing going. Like I said at a garden show one time, you can get your together, or you can just wing it and see how it turns out. Well, I started this channel to bring education and information to you guys so that you can take on a project more than just planting up a little container of color in the springtime and do it correctly, do it professionally, and have professional results. You know, January is kind of a combination month in my book. It's a combination of looking in the rearview mirror and saying goodbye to 2022 with all the holiday fanfare, the shopping, the craziness, family and friends gathering around. Okay, we've done all that. Now, for 2023, we're looking at the windshield and we're looking at what's coming up. And maybe there's a landscape project on your horizon or one on the horizon of someone you know. And wouldn't it be nice to have just a little bit more knowledge to bring to the table when they ask you, hey, do you think you can give me a hand? Or when you have to ask them, hey, are you available next month to give me a hand? We're talking about that here today. And we talk about it in January so you're ready to go when it comes that day, that launch day, maybe in March, April, or May, whatever it might be. You're going to be doing a little bit of the mental work now, even before the physical work then. So maybe some of you out there are considering a landscape project, maybe a whole front yard or backyard makeover. Well, let me ask you this question right now. What have you done about it up to this point? Up to clicking on my channel and watching this video so far? What efforts have you made towards its success or it even coming to fruition right now? Answer in the comments below. Let me know what you've thought about. Now, for some of you guys, like where we're at right now, Maestro and I are down in the southeast part of the United States. It's supposed to be 71 degrees today with some chance of some weather coming in tonight. But 71 degrees and an overnight low last night of 55. Holy bagoli, this is the time where you could start a landscape project without any problem. But should you? You could, but should you? No, you should not. Not unless you have a few things checked off your to-do list before you even get started. Now, for you guys up north, hey, we got several weeks, if not months, before you guys can seriously consider it as far as putting a shovel in the ground. But you got the perfect opportunity to start doing the mental work, and that's the bulk of this educational video here today. One of the things you have to consider is starting a landscape project, whether it be down south where we're at or way up north, is you're really not going to be able to get things started materials-wise until those materials are actually available. When you're talking about bulk materials, whether it be compost or soils, boulders, rocks, cobbles, anything along those lines, chances are they're going to be in slimmer supply than they will be in a few weeks. Now, as far as materials go, as far as drainage, as far as irrigation, lighting, lumber materials, etc., you could probably still find those. But we're still just a little ahead of ourselves, aren't we? Okay, let's pull in the reins just a little bit and go to ground zero, where we should be starting. Here's some suggestions that I might give you in order for you guys to get mentally grounded and mentally prepared for doing the job that you're probably going to be doing here in a few weeks or months. Number one, the question you need to ask yourself, are you doing it? Are you doing it yourselves, or are you going to hire it out? And if so, are you doing the whole thing yourself or parts of it? Number two, if you're only doing parts of it, what parts are they? And what parts are you going to be bringing some pros in to do? The other thing is, have you discussed, maybe just with yourself or more likely with your significant other, is to what degree is this project going to entail? What size of project, what scope and complexity is this going to require? Is this something that is a maybe a whole new deck build? Or is this a stem to stern, rip it all out? Number 4, have you doodled yet? Yes, I said that. Have you doodled? And what I mean by that is, have you sketched out any ideas? Have you written anything down? Have you gotten it out of here and put it down here on paper? Have you gone out and done some measuring? Have you brought those measurements in and did some sketching? And I'm talking about just rudimentary stuff, nothing finalized or anything like that just yet. But it's time to doodle. It's a term. The other thing is have you set any funds aside? Now maybe you're unlike Maestro and I, and you got an unlimited checking account and it's no big deal. Well, if you do have a budget, what is it and how far do you think it's going to go? Every time you think it's got it covered, you need to tack on 20%. 9 out of 10 times, everybody who thinks $5,000 is going to get it, it's going to be about $7,500. And if you're really going to do a bigger project, and maybe it's a $15,000, $20,000 DIYer, you better add on 10 grand. So budgeting is something you really have to nail down before you go any bit further. Now, lastly, another little tip, and that would be number 6. Of course, you have all the tools for this, right? You got the axes and chainsaws. You've got all the power equipment that's going to be necessary. You got wheelbarrows, you got trailers, you got dumpsters, all that stuff, right? Right? Sure, right there in the backyard. Or maybe you need to source those and maybe pick up a few things and have them at the ready for that launch date later on this year. And know where to get the things that you don't have. Rental yards are fantastic. You can go down there and shop them just like you shop a grocery store and find out where things like sod cutters are. Where do you go for the specialty stuff like irrigation and drainage, besides the box stores if needed? Those are the times in the homework and the mental game that is right up our alley here in January and probably most of February. And if you want to put a link right up here that'll show you where you can go and what's it like to go ahead and shop out at a rental store, at a box store, at a Home Depot, out in California one day. So let's do a hypothetical. Let's say, hypothetically, you are redoing the whole front yard this year. You go out there every morning on the way to taking the garbage out to the street, and you just can't stand it. It depresses you. You're seriously woeful of what your front yard looks like after all these years. Or you just moved in the house and you can't stand what the seller left you. So you got a front yard project coming up. And with that front yard project, you want a whole new look. And with that sentence alone, answer me this question. What look? What look is it that you're looking to get? And that's where more of the mental stuff comes into play. Here's a couple of ideas and some advice. Now is the time to drive around. Drive around places that are in your neighborhood, your town, your neighboring towns. Go to nurseries, look at their landscaping, go to Pinterest and Google Images and pull up all the stuff that really interests you and anyone else involved. And then kind of boil it down to something that is going to fit your taste and, more importantly, your budget. Once you have that and you got some doodling done, you're about 50% of the way home. Now, with that new look that you've kind of settled in on, here's a couple of things to look for even more. Look beyond the look. That did make sense. Look beyond the look, the appearance, the idea, the concept of what you're going to be bringing to life. And when I say that, I mean this, is what changes you're going to have to make to existing irrigation, if you have some. What kind of changes to drainage, if you have that. I always suggest you do. What kind of new walkways, curves, angles, anything changing in that realm? Because if it is, it's going to affect all the other things that I just mentioned. What is staying in the landscape and what has got to go? Is this going to be a scorched earth type of demolition job, or that beautiful Japanese maple, or that October Glory maple over there in the far corner? Those are staying because those are glorious trees and they really fill the bill here. But there's some other changes you want to make. Here's another thing that many people do not consider. One of the most boring things that people do not recognize is the color of their house. The color and trim colors and front door areas, and addressing that alone is one of the biggest things that you can do to bring your new look to life along with the landscape. So consider that. You don't have to do the whole house necessarily. It can be just the front to start with. Once the front yard landscape project is done, then you can consider on with the rest of the side yards and the back. Finishing the painting that you did out front, you can continue it for the rest of the house after the project is done. Another thing is on your hypothetical, is there anything there is going to require any sort of permitting? Now, 99%, no, I shouldn't say 99, let's say 90% of all landscaping generally is not a permitted process. Generally, you find that is if you're attaching things to the dwelling or you're changing things in the form of electricity, as far as plumbing, as far as gas lines, etc. Then you start tripping across things that need permits. So make sure you know before you move forward. Last thing you want is to have the earth opened up and you're doing stuff when the building inspector drives by and goes, potential red tag, I think I will stop and talk. And that's the last thing you want right in the middle of the project. Some other futuristic thinking, and that is in the plant world, your new look is going to involve probably a lot of new plants. And you need to know when they're going to be available, how much are available, and how more advanced notice do you need to give your local nursery to have it on site when you're ready to put them in the ground. Let me tell you something about the retail side of the nursery industry. Right about now is inventory time in the retail world. And what they're doing is they're going through and they're counting all the things that they did not sell. That's why nurseries draw down so deeply in the fall and winter, is because they got inventory in January. And as soon as that inventory is done and counted, it's time to bring on the show. It's time to bring stuff in, brand new, big, fluffy, gorgeous, luscious, salivating time. So you need to know when the plants are available. There's generally about 3 phases of late winter, early spring, spring, and late spring, early summer availability. The initial onslaught, the initial inventory increase is going to have your biggest and best. By the time mid-spring comes around, you've got the tail ends of the best stuff and the beginnings of the middle-sized stuff. And by the time late spring, early summer, if inventory is not caught up, oftentimes you can be subjected to undersized and underrooted plant material. So be aware of that. Be aware and be very selective in what you get. Another thing is don't rely on just one place. Rely on more than one place, because you could have a guy like Coach come in and clean a nursery out of 100 whatevers for his commercial project, and you were supposed to have 5 of those whatevers. So make sure you have a plan B and another place to go so that you can get all the material you need. And get it ordered in advance. Do not go in there on a Thursday afternoon because you got planting going on Saturday. You go in there 2 and 3 weeks ahead of time. You give them your order, you ask them to call you with everything that they have been able to order and the arrival times, and what they didn't get, what are you going to do? You're going to go to plan B, and you're going to go find it somewhere else, and you've got plenty of time. It's that crunch period on Friday afternoon where you've got everything except those dozen blah, blah, blahs that are supposed to go. They're supposed to go in, and you don't have them. That we don't want to do, because that raises the anxiety and the stress and blah, blah, blah. And that's when landscaping becomes unenjoyable and stressful, and why people stay away from it, because they haven't thought it out yet. Another thing to think about is if this is going to be done by you, is this a weekends only thing and you're going to protract it over 3 months or more? Or is this something that you're going to take time off of? And with that in mind, if you're bringing pros into the project, what is their schedule? And what communication have you had with the professionals, say like concrete and edging? You're going to sub that part out, only because I did a lot of that. And you got to get on those guys' schedule. You got to get them locked into a contract. You got to get deposits. and have paperwork done, and you have a start date. And remember this, if you're locking yourself into a pro's schedule, you'd better be on your schedule. You better be on your game and have everything ready to go when that pro gets there. Because here's what can happen. If Monday morning ABC Concrete is supposed to be there to start forming up, you don't even have demolition done, they're going to arrive with their guys, 1, 2, 3, 5 of them, and they're ready to rock, and they see and they go, you don't even have stuff out of the ground yet. Yeah, well, we'll talk to you when you're all done. And what do? They will go off to their plan B, and they'll start in on someone else's job. Now you're going to be going, oh, wait, and you get all your demolition done in 5 days, and they're already off starting somewhere else. So make sure once you commit to this thing, you are committed, and you go. You don't take a day off to go to the game. You don't take a day off to go skiing. You get it done, and you stay on schedule, and you keep your momentum going throughout your entire project. That's how landscape success comes about. Something that can really help you out is, have you brought in, I know this is a little self-serving, but hey, it's a business. Have you brought in the free 15-step DIY checklist from that guy Yard Coach? You might want to consider it. You might also want to consider checking out the website. If this isn't your 9-to-5 and you could use a little landscape education, check out the ebook and the digital course, youryardcoach.com. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. So thinking about everything I brought to you so far, you can see how the average weekend warrior, the average CPA dude, the average registered nurse lady, the whatever, this might be a little overwhelming, but check yourself before you wreck yourself. What I really suggest is that you put it down on paper, create yourself a punch list, and then eliminate them one at a time. Not the whole thing. You're not going to take a bite out of that elephant all in one morning. You're going to start here and then just systematically go through it. It's what I did for many, many years, and it works really, really well. And most pros do just that. Before they start putting a shovel in your ground, they have all the mental work out of the way before they arrive. You know, over the years, I have been called to the scene of many, many DIY catastrophes. People who did not take all the steps that I've mentioned here today. They leaped into it one Saturday morning because they got a wild hair up their butt, and they started ripping and tearing and breaking and just destroying stuff. And then they realize they're in over their head. They lose all confidence and they go, oh crap, now what are we gonna do? And that's when my phone used to ring. And sometimes I'd go over there and all I needed to do was consult with them and kind of put Humpty Dumpty back on the wall, so to speak. And there's also a lot of times where they said, we don't want to do this. We're gonna fund you and we want you to finish it. It's just, we don't want to do this. And that's okay, because if you have the funds to do it and you want to get bailed out, there's nothing wrong with it. They know, or they knew, they're going to be paying thousands and thousands more dollars for the landscape, but maybe they could sleep at night. So as you can see, advanced planning, the mental side of a landscape project, or any construction project for that matter, you can see the advanced planning can really smooth the feathers of that project out and make it enjoyable. And very strategic approaches to a project like this will make it, I can't always say fun, but I can say rewarding at the end. And the reward is worth it, because you're going to see a whole new look to your front or your backyard, no doubt at all. And then it's time to party like it's 1999. You know, I've said it before and I'll say it 1,000 times. I'll scream it from the rafters if I have to. That is, think it out first. Don't analyze it till you're paralyzed, but just analyze it, write it down, sketch it up, make it official, and then more than anything, look at each other and commit to it. Don't just think about it. Not just one person, it's everybody involved. That Saturday on the calendar is going to be launch day, and you've rallied the troops for some help and support. You've got all your stuff together. You have your dumpster there for demolition day. You've got materials set aside on the backyard or whatever, and you are ready to go. once you get into the ground and you start doing what you have to do, support each other, encourage each other, stick with each other. You know, for some of you, maybe next month might be launch day, so it's really time to get on the horse and start doing that mental checklist. For some of you, about be March, April, and May, who knows? The further north you are, I know you guys' growing season and your time frames are much shorter than the people in the south. There's no doubt about it. But the same mental game, the same mental checklist is still going to have to be done. Remember, spring is king. And in the nursery industry, especially when it comes to plant material, you've got to be on your game. You got to be well ahead of the curve, or you'll be behind the 8 ball by the time planting day comes around. Have that stuff at your site at least a week or two before planting day. That way the plant's going to acclimatize to your new environment. You take care of them, give them a little bit of food, some water, whatever is needed. Don't just sit them there and forget about them. You want them healthier going in the ground than when you bought them at the nursery. Some of the biggest stresses that I've ever seen for DIYers is when you try to meld your efforts into a pro's efforts. That's where chemistry and communication come in really, really strong. And let me leave you with this. In order for them to do the job for you, you have to have your job ready for them. And there's just no other way I can put that. There's nothing worse than me arriving on a Monday to start your deck build and you don't even have the old patio out of the way. And delays, feelings get hurt, schedules get busted up, and the time that I can come back and help you, I have a living to make and I've got a business to run and I got to go do other stuff. I can't just sit around for the Smiths now to take out that concrete patio so the deck can go in. Hey, that's what I got for you today. A little bit of look ahead, a little bit looking down the calendar and making sure you're ready to go for that day, that eventual day. Pick a date out. Let's just say April 20th is your launch date. So you got between now and April 20th to get your pros in line if you're going to use them, get all your demolition done at a particular point. Your materials are all gathered up and ready to go beforehand. All your equipment is ready to go that Saturday. All your people are ready to go. Don't take it on yourself if you're taking on a big project, especially if you're not in landscape shape. And if you don't know what I'm talking about there, check this out right here. Okay? It is important. It will put a hurting on a brother if you don't get yourself in shape just a little bit. And then April 20th, you're all ready to go. You will feel so much more confident and so much better about yourself and the project if you are prepared. So do it. We can do it. I'm there for you. I'm only an email away at youryardcoach@gmail.com if you have some serious questions about your landscape project. And if you're looking to help out the channel and help yourself as well, take a look at the perks here on the channel. You know, a little bit of contribution towards old Coach and Maestro will come back to help you when you need consulting. So check out the Join right here on the channel, right there on the screen. Check out Join and then look under memberships and stuff. It would really help us out so I can help you out. That's what I got for you this week. As always, to your landscape success, don't forget the podcast and the plant of the week. Hey, you've stayed with me this long, consider subscribing, give me a like. I'll catch you guys next Friday.